The crystal champagne flute shattered against the floor. Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. 300 guests at the Plaza Hotel froze. My hand didn't even tremble as I lowered the microphone. Behind me, on the 20-foot 4K LED screen intended for our love story montage, the video paused on a very specific frame. It wasn't a picture of our first date in Kyoto. It wasn't a clip from the proposal in Paris. It was Julian, my groom, the man standing 10 feet away from me in a $50,000 Tom Ford tuxedo. But in the video, he wasn't wearing a tuxedo. He wasn't wearing anything at all. And neither was the woman straddling him in the master bedroom of the house I just bought for us, the woman who happened to be my maid of honor, my cousin Sarah. Mrs. Chen, Julian's mother, the woman who had criticized everything from my posture to my choice of orchids, let out a sound I can only describe as a dying animal, a guttural shriek. She lunged for the AV table, her silky pow rustling violently, trying to kill the feed, but I had encrypted the file. I had locked the laptop. Julian looked at me. His face was a mask of pure terror, not regret, terror. He knew what this meant. In our community, reputation is currency, and I had just bankrupted him publicly, permanently, and brutally. "Evelyn, stop this," he hissed, taking a step toward me. I smiled, a genuine, calm smile. "Sit down, Julian. We haven't gotten to the audio recording yet, the one where you talk about your mother's offshore accounts." The room gasped collectively. The air left the ballroom. I watched Sarah crying into her bouquet near the head table. I watched Julian's father clutching his chest. I felt light, weightless. For 3 years, I had been the perfect doll, the obedient daughter-in-law, the trophy. Tonight, I was the executioner. But let me back up. Before the shattered glass and the ruined reputations, I was just a girl in love, ignoring every single red flag waving in my face. Julian and I were supposed to be the merger of the decade. That's what our parents called it, a merger. My family owns a chain of luxury hotels across the Pacific Northwest. His family dominates shipping logistics in Shanghai and Vancouver. On paper, we were royalty. We met at a gala in Seattle. He was charming, attentive, and incredibly handsome. He had that razor-sharp jawline and the kind of easy confidence that comes from never hearing the word no in your entire life. I fell hard. I'm an architect. I value structure, stability, beauty. Julian felt like a masterpiece. He listened to me talk about load-bearing walls and brutalist aesthetics for hours. He brought me coffee when I pulled all-nighters. He won over my strict father in a single dinner. Within 6 months, we were engaged. It felt like a fairy tale written by a PR firm. But then there was his mother, Mrs. Chen. "Evelyn," she said during our first tea ceremony, pinching the fabric of my dress. "This silk is cheap. It reflects poorly on Julian." It was custom Dior. I swallowed the insult. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Chen. I'll do better. You must," she replied, sipping her tea without looking. Julian is a king. He needs a queen, not a servant. But you must serve him like one. Do you understand the paradox? I nodded, desperate to please. I thought this was just cultural friction. Traditional expectations versus my modern upbringing. I convinced myself she just wanted the best for us. I took cooking classes to learn Julian's favorite dishes. I changed my wardrobe to be more elegant and less corporate. I started shrinking myself to fit into the little box they had built for me. And Julian, he let it happen. "She's just old-fashioned, Evie," he'd say, kissing my forehead. "Just humor her. Once we're married, it'll be different. We'll have our own life." He was lying. I know that now. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a shield. He needed someone perfect to stand in front of him and deflect his mother's intensity so he could do whatever he wanted in the shadows. The first crack in the facade appeared 3 months before the wedding. I was at our new penthouse, the one my trust fund paid for, meeting with the interior designer. Julian was supposed to be in Hong Kong for business. I walked into the study to check the paint swatches. His laptop was open on the desk. He never left his electronics unlocked, ever. But he had rushed out to the airport that morning. The screen was dim but active. iMessage was open. I didn't mean to snoop, but the name at the top caught my eye. Sarah, my cousin Sarah. Why was he texting Sarah? I touched the trackpad. The conversation scrolled up. Julian, don't worry about Evie. She's too busy picking out napkins to notice anything. Sarah, I feel guilty, Jay. She's my family. Julian, she's a transaction. You're the one I want. Just wait until the wedding is over. Once I secure the dual citizenship and the assets merge, we can figure this out. My blood turned to ice. I stood there, clutching a swatch of eggshell white, reading the words over and over. A transaction. I heard the front door open. He wasn't in Hong Kong. He was here. I slammed the laptop shut and ran to the kitchen, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Julian walked into the kitchen looking surprised but smooth. Babe, I thought you were at the firm. I forgot the swatches. I stammered, my back turned to him. I was washing a clean mug just to keep my hands busy. They were shaking uncontrollably. I thought you were in Hong Kong. Flight got delayed, he lied effortlessly, leaving tonight instead. Just came back to grab a charger. He came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. I felt sick, physically nauseous. The smell of his expensive cologne, which used to comfort me, now smelled like the seat. I wanted to scream. I wanted to smash the mug into his face. But I didn't. I froze. You okay? He asked, nuzzling my neck. Just stressed. I managed to say, wedding prep. You work too hard, he soothed. Let Mom handle more of it. He left 10 minutes later. I watched his Porsche pull out of the driveway. Then I vomited in the sink. I needed proof. A text message wasn't enough. Not for our families. If I called off the wedding now based on a glance at a screen, Mrs. Chen would destroy me. She would spin the narrative. She'd say I was crazy, jealous, unfit. My traditional father would be humiliated. Business deals would collapse. I needed concrete, undeniable evidence. I became an actor, a better actor than Julian ever was. For the next 2 months, I played the perfect bride. I smiled at tastings. I nodded when Mrs. Chen called my flower choices pedestrian. I let Sarah, my own cousin, my flesh and blood, help me sip up my wedding dress at fittings. You look beautiful, Evie, Sarah said, tears in her eyes, adjusting my veil. Thanks to you, I said, looking at her reflection in the mirror. I don't know what I'd do without you. It was a sick game. Every time she hugged me, I noted the guilt in her eyes. It was there, buried deep, but visible if you looked. She was weak. Julian was the predator, but she was a willing participant. I hired a private investigator, a man named Mr. Roth. He was expensive and discreet. I gave him Julian's schedule. I gave him Sarah's address. I need video, I told him. 4K, clear audio. I don't care what it costs. Mr. Roth didn't ask questions. He just went to work. Meanwhile, the pressure mounted. Mrs. Chen demanded we move into a compound owned by their family after the wedding. It is tradition, she declared at dinner. The son stays close to the mother. Actually, I said, cutting my steak, Julian and I discussed living in the city, near my firm. Mrs. Chen dropped her fork. Julian, is this true? Julian looked at me, then at his mother. He crumbled immediately. We're still discussing it, Mom. Nothing is decided. He threw me under the bus. Again, he squeezed my knee under the table, a silent plea to shut up. That night, Mr. Roth emailed me. The subject line was simply, Evidence Package 1. I opened the attachment. It was photos. Julian and Sarah at a boutique hotel in downtown Seattle, kissing in the lobby, hand in hand in the elevator. It hurt. God, it hurt. It felt like someone was carving my heart out with a dull spoon. But along with the pain came something else. Rage. Cold, calculating rage. They were laughing in the photos, laughing at me. The transaction, I replied to Roth. Keep digging. I need audio. I need financial records. I want everything. The breaking point came 2 weeks before the wedding, the bachelor party. Julian told me they were going to Vegas, just the guys, golf, steaks, maybe a little gambling, standard stuff. Mr. Roth sent me the GPS data. They weren't in Vegas. They were in Cabo. And Sarah was there. I was sitting in my office, staring at the tracking dot on my screen, when Mrs. Chen walked in unannounced. She didn't knock. She just breezed in, followed by 2 assistants carrying boxes. Evelyn, she barked. We are changing the centerpieces. The lilies are bad luck. We are using peonies. I slowly closed my laptop. Mrs. Chen, the lilies are already paid for. They cost $12,000. Money is not an issue. She waved her hand dismissively. Luck is the issue. You need all the luck you can get, considering. She trailed off, looking me up and down with disdain. Considering what? I stood up. Considering your temperament, she sniffed. You are too independent. A wife must be soft like water. You are hard like stone. Julian needs softness. Julian seems to be finding softness elsewhere, I said, the words slipping out before I could check them. Mrs. Chen froze, her eyes narrowed. What did you say? I had to be careful. It wasn't time yet. I mean, he seeks comfort in his friends. He's stressed. She stepped closer, invading my personal space. She smelled of old money and judgment. Listen to me, girl. I know my son. I know he has appetites. Men do. Your job is to look the other way, to maintain the family honor. If you cannot do that, you are useless to us. She knew. The realization hit me like a physical blow. She knew about Sarah. Or if not Sarah specifically, she knew he was cheating. And she didn't care. In fact, she expected me to accept it, to be the silent, suffering wife, while her golden boy did whatever he pleased. I understand, I said, my voice flat. Good. She tapped my cheek. It was patronizing and humiliating. Change the flowers. She left. I sat back down. My hands were trembling, but not from fear this time. From adrenaline. They thought I was trapped. They thought the wedding was a lock. They thought I would never blow up $1 million event because of face. They relied on my shame to keep me silent. They were wrong. I opened my email. Mr. Roth had sent a new file. audio_clip_04.mp3. I put my headphones on. Julian's voice. God, I can't wait for this to be over. Once I have access to the trust fund, I'm moving half of it to the Cayman account. Mom set it up. Evelyn won't see a dime. She's just the key to the vault. Sarah's voice. Are you sure she won't suspect? Julian, she's clueless. She thinks I'm her Prince Charming. It's pathetic, really. Tears streamed down my face. Not sad tears. Angry tears. Pathetic, I whispered to the empty office. I wiped my face. I picked up the phone. Mr. Roth, it's Evelyn. I need you to do something specific with the files. And I need you to contact the IT guy managing the wedding AV system. I have a job for him. I wasn't just going to leave him. I was going to nuclear winter his entire existence. The week of the wedding was a blur of final fittings and fake smiles. I felt like a spy in enemy territory. Every time Julian kissed me, I mentally added another item to his destruction list. Every time Sarah hugged me, I visualized the video playing on the big screen. The plan had to be perfect. Timing was everything. First, the legal trap. I met with my family's corporate lawyer, a shark named Harrison. I told him everything. I played him the tapes. Harrison whistled low. This is fraud, Evelyn. Conspiracy to commit fraud. If he signs the prenup under these pretenses, and we can prove he intended to embezzle your trust funds. Can we nail him? I asked. We can nail him to the wall, Harrison grinned. But we need him to sign. The wedding has to happen. Or at least, the ceremony. The legal documents are signed immediately after the vows. He'll sign. I promised. He thinks he's winning. Second, the assets. I quietly moved my personal savings into a separate blocked account. I changed the passwords to everything. I removed Julian as a beneficiary on my life insurance. I did it all at 3 a.m. on secure networks. Third, the reveal. I met with the AV technician, a young guy named Kevin, behind the hotel loading dock. I handed him an envelope with $5,000 cash and a USB drive. This drive contains the slideshow, I told him. Do not open it. Do not test it. When the love story segment comes up in the run of show, you play this. No matter what anyone screams at you, you let it play for at least 60 seconds. Can you do that? Kevin looked at the cash, then at me. Is this gonna get me fired? Probably, I said honestly, but I'll hire you at my firm on Monday. Double your salary. A tea manager. He pocketed the drive. Done. The night before the wedding, the rehearsal dinner, Julian gave a toast. He looked dashing. He spoke about soulmates and destiny. He looked right at me with those lying eyes and raised his glass. To Evelyn, he said, the woman who completes me. Sarah clinked her glass a little too hard. Mrs. Chen nodded approvingly from the corner. She thought she had won. She thought she had broken me into the perfect, submissive daughter-in-law. I stood up. To Julian, I said, my voice steady, to the truth. May it always find a way to the light. Julian frowned slightly. A flicker of doubt crossed his face, but then he smiled it away. He was too arrogant to believe I could outsmart him. He thought I was soft like water. Water can drown you if you're not careful. I went to bed early. I lay awake in the hotel suite. Julian was staying in a separate room. Tradition, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, I would walk down the aisle. I would say I do. I would sign the papers that sealed his legal fate. And then, at the reception, surrounded by the elite of Seattle and Shanghai, I would burn his world to the ground. I fell asleep smiling. The ceremony was a blur. The white dress, the flowers, the vows. I, Julian, take you, Evelyn. Lies. All lies. I, Evelyn, take you, Julian. I looked him in the eye. I didn't cry. I didn't waver. I said the words because they were the combination to the lock. We signed the marriage license in the vestry. Harrison was there, witnessing it. He gave me a subtle nod. The trap was sprung. Legally, Julian had just committed fraud on a massive scale. Then, the reception. The grand ballroom at the Plaza. Chandeliers the size of small cars. Centerpieces of white peonies. Mrs. Chen got her way. We did the first dance. We cut the cake. And then, the MC announced the love story montage. And now, the DJ boomed a special video presentation celebrating the journey of our happy couple. The lights dimmed. A hush fell over the crowd. I stepped away from Julian. I walked to the center of the floor and took the microphone. Before we start, I said, my voice amplified through the massive speakers. I want to thank everyone for coming, especially Mrs. Chen, who taught me so much about expectations. Mrs. Chen looked confused, and to Sarah, I turned to the head table. Sarah froze, a forkful of cake halfway to her mouth. Thank you for being more than a cousin. You were intimate family. Play the video, I commanded. The screen flickered to life. It started innocently enough. Photos of us as kids. The crowd awed. Then the static cut in. The video shifted. It was shaky handheld footage from Mr. Roth. The boutique hotel lobby. Julian grabbing Sarah's ass. The crowd went silent. Confused. Was this a joke? Then the audio kicked in, the recording from the car. Julian's voice crystal clear. She's a transaction. You're the one I want. Gasps. Murmurs. Then the bedroom scene. The one I described earlier. It was graphic. Undeniable. Turn it off. Mrs. Chen shrieked. Turn it off now. She ran toward the AV booth. Security guards, confused, didn't stop her, but Kevin held the door shut. Julian stood there, pale as a sheet. He looked at the screen, then at me. Evelyn, he choked out. No, I said into the mic. Don't speak. You wanted the trust fund, Julian. You wanted the merger. Well, you got it. But you also got a fraud indictment. My lawyer filed it 20 minutes ago. I pointed to the screen where the financial documents were now scrolling. Proof of his offshore accounts. Proof of the embezzlement scheme he and his mother were running. And Mrs. Chen, I turned to the horrified matriarch. You wanted me to be soft? Sorry, I'm stone. The room erupted. Sarah was sobbing hysterically, running for the exit. Julian's father had collapsed into a chair, clutching his chest. Actually having a medical episode, or just faking it to escape the shame, I didn't care. Julian lunged at me. You bitch! You ruined everything! My father stepped in front of me. He's 60, but he plays tennis every day. He shoved Julian back with a force that sent the groom stumbling into the wedding cake. Julian fell backward into the 5-tier vanilla sponge. You lay there, covered in frosting, humiliated, defeated. I looked down at him. The wedding is over, I announced. Please enjoy the buffet. I paid for it. I dropped the mic. It made a satisfying thud. I turned on my heel and walked out of the ballroom. I didn't look back. The fallout was nuclear. It was everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, the local news. The wedding cake groom became a meme within hours because I had waited until after the papers were signed to reveal the fraud. The legal ramifications were severe. Our marriage was annulled on the grounds of fraud, but the evidence I presented regarding the financial crimes triggered a federal investigation. Julian's family business was audited. They found millions in laundered money. Mrs. Chen wasn't just creative with accounting. She was criminal. She's currently serving 3 years in a minimum security facility for tax evasion. Julian didn't go to jail, but he lost everything else. His reputation is ash. No reputable firm in the city will hire him. He's radioactive. The last I heard, he was working for a mid-level logistics company in Ohio, far away from the high society he used to rule. Sarah, my family cut her off completely. My aunt and uncle were so ashamed they moved to Arizona. She tries to text me sometimes, apologizing, saying she was manipulated. I blocked her number. I don't have space for snakes in my garden. As for me, I'm thriving. The scandal actually boosted my career. People saw me as strong, uncompromising, a woman who doesn't take nonsense. My firm promoted me to junior partner. I'm designing a new skyline tower in downtown Seattle. I kept the apartment. I kept the ring, sold it actually, and donated the money to a woman's shelter. I'm dating again, a chef. He's kind. He has rough hands and a loud laugh. He doesn't care about mergers or trust funds. He cooks me pasta at 2 a.m. and listens when I talk. Sometimes I think back to that moment in the ballroom, the silence, the shattered glass, the look on Julian's face when he realized his life was over. It wasn't just revenge. It was a reclamation. I took back my life, my dignity, and my future from people who thought they could own me. They wanted a doll. They got a demolition expert. And honestly, the buffet was delicious. I took a plate to go.